Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video tutorial on unorthodox openings in Xiangqi. Today's board will be a continuation of the previous board last week, which is the central cannon versus the tandem cannon's defense. Short recap, central cannon, black could play c8 plus 1 for the Black will play c8 plus 1 to protect the central pawn and then play c2 equals to 8 to add pressure on this flank, sorry. Now, in the previous board, red will continue with h2 plus 3, but black will be able to will be able to hold his own if he played correctly. So, modern opening theory would suggest that red should play p8 h8 plus 7, or maybe another option would be p3 plus 1. Now, if p3 plus 1 were played, this variation was not dealt with in detail, but let us see. Red would be prepared to advance the horse to attack, and black would be forced to play c2 equals to 7, h2 plus 3. Now, black must develop his left flank because he needs to protect this vulnerable cannon. Red will attack the cannon, black will protect it, but in doing so, red will now be prepared to storm the central file to capture the central pawn and gain a headhunter cannon in the process. So red will have the initiative with this variation. But the more popular or advocated way of playing this position would be to play h8 plus 7, although h2 plus 3 would seem to be a habit to develop the right horse. Now, this is a very important move because it would allow red to play h9 equals to 8 later on in the game. So let's say black continue with the tandem cannon's defense. This will be the key move for red to bust open black's entire position. With c8 plus 5, red would now threaten black's cannon rank. Black cannot move any horse or elephant, or he would lose a cannon. And because his right flank was developed, black would need at least one or two moves to try to shoo away this red cannon. So, for example, if black played r9 equals r9 plus 2, red would simply protect the cannon, and this is the reason why h8 plus 7 was played earlier. And since black was prepared to storm this flank, red would simply defer the development of his right flank later on, so that there will be some material here to deal with any potential attacks by black. So this is the way that red will bust open the tandem cannon's defense in modern times. So 3 variations were suggested for this very important position. The first would be p9 plus 1, where black will try to continue his attack as shown in the previous board. He would try to attack from the edge file. The second will be e3 plus 1. Now, the main reason for e3 plus 1 would be to play h2 plus 4, followed to threaten this cannon. And the last would be c8 minus 1, whereby black would give up the cannon rank, whereby he would try to shoo this cannon with r9 plus 2. So either way, let us examine the variations that were given in the book. p9 plus 1, black would start to be prepared to storm the edge flank. So there were 2 variations that were suggested. Now, red would now take his time to develop his right flank in preparation for black's attack. Now, this is the steadfast choice for a balanced development of material. It would not be a good idea to play p7 plus 1 to try to attack the central pawn, because black would go for h8 plus 9. Red will play h7 plus 6, hoping to capture the pawn, capture, and capture. But black would have none of it. He would simply go for h9 plus 8. Okay, let's say red played h6 plus 4. Red would usually continue with h6 plus 4, as h6 plus 5 would not be a good idea, because black would simply refuse to capture the horse, and now instead the position of this horse will become a major problem or issue for red to handle, because if it advanced, there will not be any good places for it to go. If it moves to the cannon rank, this cannon will be captured by black instead, so black would have a very playable game. So h6 plus 4 is usually continued, so attacking the central pawn would not be a viable option. And usually black will counter very aggressively with h8 plus 6. It would not be a good idea to capture material here, because let's say if you give up the material, red will think that, oh, I've sacrificed the horse to get the headhunter cannon, and red would now be threatening to go for the double cannons checkmate. Unfortunately, black would simply play h2 plus 3. This would be a trade of material. This cannon will be threatening this cannon, while this horse will be threatening this horse. But red would simply continue to sacrifice material and retreat this cannon, and be prepared to go for h4 plus 5, followed by the elbow horse attack, etc., etc. Red would have the advantage. So that is why black should not capture the horse to gain material at this point. And black should instead play h8 plus 6 to attack, preparing to go for the elbow horse and also indirectly protecting the central pawn. Let's say black's red did indeed capture the cannon. Black will simply capture the horse back. And again, this horse will not have any good place to go. Black will recover lost material. This upon pushing the pawn, the chariot will also be protecting the central pawn, and black can be satisfied with this position because he will now have mobilized his left flank much earlier than red, and red's cannons and horse would not be able to do much at this point in time. So that is why p7 plus 1 is not a good idea, and red should develop his right horse for balanced development of the pieces. h8 plus 9, p3 plus 1. Again, black could use the methods of attack or tactical combinations shown in the previous board for attack. And red would not care about this side because now he still would have one horse, one chariot to defend this flank. Instead, he will develop his left flank and to add pressure on black. It would not be a good idea to try to play p3 plus 1, hoping that after p7 plus 1, red could capture the central pawn. For example, it would appear that red would be prepared to go for the checkmate with h5, c5 plus, c8 equals to 5, but black could simply defend with h2 plus 3. Again, after trading material, red, although red might still have the slight advantage, it will be very hard for him to control the situation because now the horse was prepared to capture the cannon. If it moved away, black would simply capture the cannon and he would be controlling all the major lines. So black would actually give up the central file or give red a headhunter cannon, and in compensation he will be able to be compensated with his pieces being very well developed. So it will be very hard for red to control the situation. So p3 plus 1, although it's a good idea tactical wise, will not be suggested. Instead, red could simply play h9 plus r9 equals to 8, and is still at this position at this point in time. Black cannot. Black's cannon rank was still under attack. So black would usually be forced to fortify his central pawn in this manner, and red will continue to develop material. At this point, after p3 plus 1, the black horse will not have any good places to go, perhaps only h8 plus 7, and red could still attack at will. So this potential is red would have a very open position, whereas black would have a very congested and awkward positioning of the pieces. Red would have a significant advantage. So a short recap. H8 plus 7 will be the key move. Tandem cannon defense, and red will continue here. In the first version, P9 plus 1 was played by black as he tried the previous methods that was shown in the previous spot. Now, the second variation will be E3 plus 1, which will be another very awkward move because the elephant would now be moved to the flank, and this would weaken the defense, any potential defense that black could have by linking his elephants on the central file. So red will continue with R9 equals to 8 for natural development of the pieces. Now, would it be possible for red to try to develop the left chariot as a rank chariot? Let us see. Black would shoo away or dislodge the red cannon as planned. Let's say red tried to be aggressive and play R9 equals to 6. Black would simply capture the cannon. Now, it would not be a good idea to protect the horse in this manner because black would simply move the cannon away after he had finished his duty, and this cannon, the cannon, the rear bank, will not be prepared to attack this file, etc., etc. But once the cannon moved away, black would now also move his horse away, and black can deal with the enemy's aggression. So black would have advanced the chariot cannon and retreated it, resulting in a loss of tempo, while black would have been compensated for with this by moving his elephant to the edge file. Black can still deal with the enemy's aggression. So h4 plus 2 is advocated. Black would protect the horse in this manner. If the red chariot captured the black horse, black would simply gain back lost material while offering a trade of chariots. And this would be the move that would allow black to gain some tempo, because now although red had captured one of his chariots, black would now threaten to capture both the black chariots at this point in time. So red will usually be forced to play this move, capture the cannon, and red would not have gained anything for this exchange and would have instead lost an advisor. So black would have now gained an open position. The positioning of the black horse is a little bit awkward, but black would have plenty of time to maneuver his chariot into action, and after trading material, basically this would be a rather drawy situation which black can accept. So that's why R9 plus 1 is not advocated. Let's say it will be advocated for red to play R9 equals to 8 once the elephant had moved to protect this cannon. Again, black tries to dislodge the cannon. And red would have none of it and continue to develop his material in a not natural and normal manner. So black tried to force his way. Red would simply retreat his cannon one step and still apply pressure on the central file. And it would be advised for black to play h8 plus 7 to fortify his central pawn. It would not be a good idea to play r9 plus 1 as would be in some of the variations, whereby black would try to mobilize both his chariots. Now, this is because red would simply capture the central pawn, trade on material, and black would still gain a headhunter cannon and still have the advantage. Red will be prepared to play r1 equals to 2 to gain material, etc., etc. So h8 plus 7 is advocated because the central pawn needs to be protected. And red will develop his red chariot as a rank chariot, since developing it as a file chariot is impossible. And red will be simply faster in commanding the very important lines, because the black chariot can only would not have any good lines for development once red played r1 equals to 4. So let's say black tried to trade material with this move. Red would have none of it and simply push his pawn forward. He will not have to fear any trade of material, because if this were played, the black horse would be blocked and red could simply capture the central pawn, etc. for a significant advantage. So red's pieces would have commanded the very important intersections and also the spatial advantage. So variation 2, e3 plus 1 would not be a good idea. And what about c8 minus 1, as the authors presented a very interesting option. Now it would be important for red to develop his right flank. This is the better choice in this situation. r9 equals to 8 would not be a good idea, because now the red horse would be able to be developed as the cannon had retreated. Black can develop his chariot, so black will still be able to hold his own. It would not be a good idea to play c8 plus 1 either, because black would simply take the opportunity to move his chariot. e3 plus 5, let's see, is also viable, because now black would have controlled the cannon rank, and black would be able to develop his horse h2 plus 4 later on. So as can be seen, r1 plus 2 or e3 plus 5 would both be viable options, and black would now link his chariots on the cannon rank to try to gain back a fight for this very important line. So this is why c8 plus 1 is not viable. Instead, h2 plus 3 would be the better choice. Now, because the cannon rank was now free, black would play r9 plus 2 to try to dislodge the cannon. Now, intuitively, this would appear to be a good idea by black to try to gain some momentum and fight for the initiative. And indeed, red would have to spend a few moves dealing with this cannon. But the inherent weaknesses of black's formation would mean that black would not be able to gain much in this exchange. So let us see why. Red would protect the cannon, as a matter of fact. Again, black would try to shoo away, dislodge the cannon, and red would simply retreat his cannon to the riverbank. Now, at this point in time, red will be prepared to play, for example, c8 equals to 5 or check to capture the black horse. There were still many other possible options. So the best move in this situation would be to play r1 equals to 2. Now this would be the only counter that black can play to avoid losing material. Now, this will also be a very complicated situation. Okay, would a4 plus 5 be viable? The answer would be no, because now black would attempt a discovered attack for leading to a checkmate, targeting the elephant over here. So again, it will be too late for black to link his chariots up, because he must protect against this checkmate and lose material in the process. a6 plus 5 would also not be viable, because now the cannon would now target the other elephant for the smaller cannon checkmate. Let's say if red played h2 plus 3, but black will lose the chariot in this situation. So r1 plus 2 will be the best option, and red could continue to play p3 plus 1 to develop material. Now, black cannot think that he can gain material and fall into black's trap with c8 plus 5. So for example, again, black would now gain back lost material with his fork, and red will not have gained anything for his efforts. So black will still be in the game in contention. So c8 plus 5 is not a good idea. Instead, p3 plus 1 would be the correct move. So b6 plus 5. And now red would try to take the central pawn by force. At this point in time, black would defend in this manner. Now, would it be a good idea to play c5 equals to 4? This is hoping to try to gain material. Let's say if black captured the horse or moved away, black will always the threat of c8 equals to 7 will still be present. So let us see. Red would simply capture the horse, and it would be very important for black to move the horse over here to counter threaten the red chariot. And black would have would have in fact been a black chariot trading for 2 of red's pieces, but at this point in time, red's attack would be resolved, and black would still have a playable situation. Again, the development of this chariot would still be a problem, and black can take his time to develop his left flank. So hc5 equals to 4 is not a good idea. Now, since black had moved the chariot, it would not be a good idea to capture the pawn, because the chariot could be used to protect the central file if need be later on. So red would change his direction and play h4 plus 3, threatening to capture the black cannon, forcing it to move forward. Now would be the time for black to try to trade material. And because now red will apply a fork, and red will enjoy a tremendous advantage because black will still be unable to decongest this flank, while red would have already one cannon attacking the bottom rank, and the other cannon was prepared to capture the central pawn. So red will enjoy a tremendous advantage. So in this board, contemporary analysis of this position would suggest that this would be the move. First of all, hc2 plus 5, the tandem cannon. It would be important for red to play h8 plus 7. Now, if black continued with c2 equals to 8, black will counter with this move, which would be a very powerful and controlling move. And if, let's say in this situation, if black did not play c2 equals to 8, this cannon would become a huge weakness in black's formation, and black would have to spend many moves trying to deal with it. So either way, black would be in deep trouble. So there are 3 variations that were discussed: p9 plus 1, e3 plus 1, and c8 equals to 1. As can be seen from the variations that were moves that were given in the book, there was simply many very interesting variations. So p9 plus 1, or the previous method of attack, would not be viable because black would gain a very open position, and black would still have trouble developing his left flank and right flank in the process, while the cannons and the horse that he had spent so many moves making, were not able to do much. The horse cannot. The only place for this horse to go will be to h8 plus 7. He cannot move here. Neither can the black horse capture. So black will be stalled in the development of his pieces. Red will command a significant advantage. In variation 2, e3 plus 1, black will try to dislodge the cannon with h2 plus 4 later on. Unfortunately, red will still gain a very open position. He will command the important lines before black can do so, and black will still be on the receiving end. Last variation, c8 minus 1 would be an interesting option, whereby the black would make the cannon rank his main battlefield. But if red countered correctly, red would gain a open position. So red will enjoy a tremendous advantage. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this short video, and I would like to thank Master Wenqing and Grandmaster Zhang again for allowing me to do this short video to promote Xiangqi. And I hope you'll be enjoying this series, which consists of about 10 videos. I'll be doing them over time, and if you like the work that I've been doing, please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. Thank you.